Thank you for this invitation. I'm very happy to introduce you. I think it's not a full introduction in the sense that you are already aware of what I will tell, to the microbial fabric of life and landscape. Humbly, I don't know if it can be useful to you, but I would like to make you aware that really, and it's not a world, we are living in a microbial world. We are just hitchhiking on a Earth that is already occupied, densely made, densely populated by microbes. And so when I saw the title and the time, we need between 7 and 8 hours to make this correctly, of course. I was a bit yesterday when I was thinking of what I would say to you, a bit afraid of that. But first, I guess you see the microbes there, because they are absolutely everywhere, especially on this picture. I hope you realize that the microbial fabric is in our cells, deep in our cells. What is making the greenness of the plant and what is making photosynthesis in the plant, if not the plastids, which we know now the plastids where photosynthesis is done are bacteria, photosynthetic bacteria living in the cells of the plant and fed by the plant and reciprocally feeding the plant with some of the product of their own photosynthesis. The chloroplasts are bacteria, but it's not the only thing that is shaping the function of the cell. Not only in the plant, the plastids are bacteria, cyanobacteria to be exact, but there are also mitochondria. We have also mitochondria, those parts of the cell where respiration is carried out. And respiration, we know now, done by those mitochondria, is a microbial process. The mitochondria are bacteria living in our cells and nowhere else. They are intimately linked to our cells and they don't live anywhere else. But this is how we and the plant, we animals and the plants, we got respiration. We were catching respiration like in the way you can catch flu, by catching microbes. Our ancestors. So this introduction is just to tell you that the microbes are deeply in us because they shape part of our cell, part of our metabolisms to plants and animals. They are intimately linked to us, and it has a meaning. It means that the interaction with microbes is so ancient that part of the interaction became a daily, basic component of our cells. So it's a long history behind those chloroplasts and mitochondria, but it means that at every step of our evolution, we met microbes. And we made intimate interactions with them. They are the fabric of our cells. Now, my second point is that it's also the fabric of our bodies. And for this, I would like to invite you to look carefully at the microbes on this picture. Of course, you don't see them because by definition they are microbes, but all the organisms that are big are simply building for microbes. They are house for microbes, especially on their surfaces and cavities. If you are animal, you are populated by microbes on your skin, on your surface, but also in every cavity like the mouth, the digestive tract, the vagina, the ears, every time, or the lungs, every time there is a hole, there are microbes there. For you that are listening to me, your number of cells is 10 to 14. That is 10,000 billions of cells. And we exactly have the same number of bacteria and unicellular fungi in our gut. Nicely, they are 10 times smaller than our cells in every dimensions. So they are 1,000 times less volumic than our cells, and as a result, you or me, we only carry 1 or 2 kilograms of microbes. And when I was doing my study, we said, okay, there are many microbes, as many microbes in the digestive tract as I have human cell in my body, okay? They belong to how many species? 5 to 10,000 of species. So you are a hyper-diverse microbial zoo, and you are less costly to visit than a zoo with 100 times less species. Okay, so that's the point. We are populated by a biodiversity. Biodiversity starts with me or you. And this biodiversity, during my studies, as I told you, we said, okay, well, they are there, they eat a bit, they are protected, but they have no value for us. We now realize that we are very dependent on this microbiota for our digestion, our regulation of metabolism, for example, the energy or the level of respiration or the level of storage we do is regulated by molecules produced by our microbes. Those microbes, they also fight against the invaders. Most of you have Staphylococcus aureus on the skin, but will have no problem. 80% of you have Staphylococcus aureus on the skin, but very few of you will have a problem because Staphylococcus is fighting with a hyper-diverse community of other microbes on your skin that compete with it and limits its settlement, so you are protected. The problem is not to have or not have Staphylococcus aureus on the skin. It's a big pathogen. But the problem is not to have it or not. The question is, who is there as well? Making a screen, because they simply, every of those guys, they compete for food, so they regulate each other this way. But also we know this microbiota is dealing with our immune system. I will show you some unexpected examples from that later, but it's sending molecules that regulate our immune system or not, but clearly it's one of the actors of that, and it's also regulating our brain. We often discuss the gut-brain axis, but there's also a gut-skin axis, there is also a gut-vagina axis, there is also a gut-ear axis. I exaggerate a bit, but everything is linked. Don't make too much on the gut only. And the story is that it's shaping also our nervous system and its functioning. It doesn't mean it doesn't function without it, but with it, it's functionless. And you know why we know that? Simply because nowadays we have 1.5 to 3 times less species of microbes than our ancestors did, or than people living in Amazonia in a non-occidental way of life have. We have much more diversity, and we know that it's one of the gates with genetic determinism or with environment or way of living. It's one of the main gates, this reduction in diversity of our microbiota, to the modern illness, which are exploding in current civilizations and affecting 1/4 of you here. Asthma, allergia, obesity, diabetes, Alzheimer, Parkinson, extreme burnout, Crohn's diseases, multiple sclerosis, blah, 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 blah. Those modern illnesses that are exploding, one of the reasons why they explode is that there is a dysregulation of our functions due to a loss of diversity of microbes. So if it's not our fabric to be inhabited by microbes that contribute to the good functioning of so many functions and potentially to so many dysfunctionings when they are not here, then I don't know what is a microbial fabric. And as you see, we have to handle it, because otherwise our health is not getting well. There are plants here, and for plants it's the same, except that for plants, the microbiota are not only on the surface or in cavities, but also within the tissue, because as you know, perhaps the plants, they have pores between the cells where gas are diffusing, and that's the way they respire or catch the CO2 for photosynthesis. They have small gaps between the cells. There's a network of small gaps connected to openings in the leaves or in the cork is called the irenchyma. It's very overlooked, but the fact is that this irenchyma is infiltrated by microbes that enter by the pores, like the stomata on the leaves, and penetrate in the tissue, not only at the surface of the tissue or in the cavities, but also in between the cells. I will not be long on plant. I would just like to show you this root of plant, which is colonized by a fungus entering the root. We don't see it inside the root, but we see the filaments of the fungus and the spores of this fungus. This is the symbiotic association, this part of the microbiota of plants, which I'm working on. In the soil, there are fungi that are connecting to the roots, and there is an exchange of food. The plant is giving carbon to such fungi, and those fungi, they just go to make the market for the plant in the soil. They go to collect water, nitrogen, and phosphorus. That's a reciprocally beneficial association, which is allowing the plant not only to eat, but also which is protecting the roots against various illness. And it's one part of the microbiota on which my research teams are working. 8 out of 10 plants have it. rather probably 9 out of 10 plants have it at various levels, but for 8 out of 10 plants, if you don't have the fungi, you don't have the plant. They are everywhere, so everywhere you put a seed, you have the fungi. So it's not for you so obvious. But if in the lab I'm cultivating on a sterile soil a plant, you would guess that sterile soil is devoid of pathogens. It is, but it's also devoid of such fungi, so it doesn't grow. 8 out of 10 plants absolutely require that for nutrition. This association is called a mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza are necessary for 8 out of 10 plants, are present on 9 out of 10 plants, and it's an example of this plant microbiota, which is funny because this is something we don't have. The microbes are in the plant and also in the environment at the same time. It's because plants don't move. If you move, every connection that a microbe would make between you and the environment would be immediately broken. But for plants, there are microbiota that are also soil microbiota. That's the particularity. But once again, the plants, they are like us. They are buildings for many more microbes than there are plant species or even plant cells. Okay. 1 gram of leaf, 100 millions of bacteria. 1 leaf of plant, 200 species of fungi. I'm speaking of a healthy leaf here. So it's pervasive. It's our microbial fabric of our bodies constructed over the microbial fabric of our cells. Okay. Now I'll shift to the microbial fabric of the rest of the world, our environment. This picture is full of microbes, really full of microbes. And the 2 hot spots where microbes are the most diverse are, first, of course, here, the water. Second, by order. The first one comes later. Of course, third is the bodies there, with their microbiota, okay? But second by ranking for diversity is the water. You notice, I think, that the water is green very often. It's not the color of water. Take a swimming pool, white, put water in it, it will be blue. Look at cracks in ice sheets. It's blue. Water is blue. If water is most of the time greenish, it's because it's filled with algae. 90% of the biomass of the water in the ocean is microbial. And I show you a couple of diatoms, which are those wonderful algae whose cells are surrounded by glass. They are just surrounded by glass protection, a glass capsule that they produce at room temperature. So they are overdiverse in water. 1 spoon of seawater, it's 10,000 of microalgae, it's millions of bacterial cells. But also there are a lot of bacteria, and of microbes, fungi and other kinds in the soils. 1 gram of soil is 1,000 of bacterial species, 1,000 only fungal species, hundreds of species of paramecia, amoeba. The soil is the very first hotspot of diversity on this picture. So first, the soil, second, the water, third, the bodies, and last, the so-called bare surfaces, whose color is due to a biofilm, a cover of microbes. So microbes are everywhere in our environment, and some microbiologists, they say, if on Earth you suppress everything, absolutely everything, rocks, human cells, plant cells, but microbes, you will still see the shape of the world. Because there are biofilm on your skin, biofilm on the surface of those leaves, biofilms on the surface of everything. Inside everything, there is also bacteria, like your mitochondria, like the plastids of those plants, and the various microbes in the plant. So if you delete everything but microbes, you still see the shape of the world and everything populating the world. We are in a microbial world. And what do we do with that? That's my last section. Where to go with this Weltanschauung, this emerging view of the world that we have now. There are there, of course, the microbes. By the way, if you think that this is pollution, this blackish cover that you have on buildings, you are wrong. It's long ago that we don't have smoke and house in the cities to have such cover of dust or pollution. Those are cyanobacteria. Okay? What is making our buildings a bit grayish or green to gray? These are biofilms of microbes, the most colorful of which are cyanobacteria, free-living cyanobacteria. Here are the closest free-living related of the chloroplasts in the plant. So we are surrounded also in our lives of microbes, and what to do with that. My first point will be on what I call clean dirtiness. The first thing is that we understand now, due to the role of the microbiota in our bodies, that we cannot be sterile. But you are sterile at birth. So it means that if we don't want to be sterile, but start at birth by being sterile without microbes, we have to be accessible to microbes. And nowadays, we made an environment in our flats, in our lives, in the preparation of the food, where there is no microbe. It's clean, as we say, but it's too clean for us. That's one of the reasons why we have such a lower diversity in the microbiota than our ancestors. So we have to think of a level of dirtiness that is clean. By that I mean a level of dirtiness of our environment, and it's in your kitchen, it's the way you wash your hands, the way you clean or not a carrot before eating it. It's a way of it to be a bit dirty, for microbes to be able to jump on you, but clean at the same time, that is sufficiently clean and devoid of pathogens, not to come back to middle age with illness of the middle age, of course. But clean or not is cultural. I would like to discuss hygiene. In the Middle Age, the cultural aspect of that was not hygienic. To be clean in the Middle Age was not really hygienic. It was too much of microbes. Nowadays, to be clean culturally is not hygienic either. It's too sterile. Let me show you this experiment reported in a journal on health, research journal. Children aged 3 to 5 years are playing twice a day for 20 minutes in a sandbox for 2 weeks. And in the intervention group, the group that has a treatment that we test, the sand is mixed with soil and soil microbes. Don't play with that, or you will be dirty. And in the placebo group, the control group, if you prefer, the sand is similar by eye because it's mixed with sterile peat. So it looks the same, and they play with either sand and microbes and sand without microbes. Analyses are done after 2 weeks and 4 weeks, so that is 2 weeks after we stop the experiment. And what we see here is that on the skin, I make it short, at 2 weeks you have some bacteria that are very present on the skin of the kids in blue that play in contaminated soil, not of course in the skin of kids that that play with sterile soil, which have same level as before. So there is contamination by soil bacteria. Don't play with that, okay? And this is the analysis of interleukin, which are molecules shaping the functioning of the immune system. To make it very short, you see that the kids that play with dirt, they have higher level of interleukin 10, and they tend to have lower level of interleukin 17. Good news. The number 10 is the one regulating positively the immune system, making it able to respond, but not activating for nothing. The 17 is one boosting inflammation, and even inflammation for nothing. It's the one that you should use with caution. So the ratio you have here is good, not good. It's the immune system, okay? We are far from the skin. Those are molecules that are circulating in the blood. Okay? Clean dirtiness. Put your hand in dirty sand, please. And we have to think of that in the fabric of our cities. And one simple thing is that we need more soil. And we don't only need more soil to have more bacteria around us, but as you know, in Europe at least, where we tend to have more rain in fall and winter and less rain in summer, we also need soil to store water when there is too much of rain, and to give this water back to the plant when it's very hot, to allow plant to grow and to cool down the temperature. But we have to open the soil. It's not dirty. What is dirty is when your shoes, when you come back home in a wet day, what is dirty is if your shoes are clean, because it means there were not enough of soil on the way. We also need, of course, plants to grow there. If we have soil, we'll have plant. Don't call a plant a tree that is going out of concrete or a fully covered soil. These trees will die soon because of too dry summer. We need more plants. They have many roles. I just will give you one. There is a big study of 2.5 million Welsh people, so in southern UK, and the figure is the following one. Every time you are 360 meters farther from the nearest spot of greenness, you have 5% more risk of neural disorder. Every time you are 360 meters more away from, it's been the Lancet published, 360 meters farther from the nearest green spot in your life, 5% more neural disorder. It's not very microbial, but it's shaped also by microbes. We need greenness. We desperately need it. There are, of course, social and financial factors confounding in this study. They are taken into account, and the distance to greenness is expected to represent 50% of the determinism of the figure I gave you. Okay, and please think local, because I told you that the plant needs microbes in soil to develop. Introduced plants, they have two problems. I wanted to come to this point. First, they don't necessarily get in the soil every microbe. And you will tell me, yes, Marc-André, but they grow. Yes, they grow. But are they resilient as much as they would be if they had the good microbes? They left the good microbes home. They use the microbes of other plants where they grow, where we plant them. It's not necessarily the best ones to allow them resilience, okay? Plus, they come sometimes with one or two illness that they can give to local plants. I'm thinking, for example, of the calarosis on Fraxinus. This went with Fraxinus from Manchuria, and it's now killing our local ones. So think local. And if you tell me that there is climate change, think nearly local by going to zones a little bit in the south or in the east where there is currently the climate that you expect home. But don't go to too much exotism. There are beautiful varieties of local plants. And by the way, there are a lot of locally edible plants and shrubs that you can plant. Yesterday I was walking in the city on oak, on a cone of oak, scratching these big pieces of starch. And what if it was chestnut or nuts or walnuts instead of that, edible? So those are some comments of a biologist toward our cities. And on that, I would like to thank you for your attentions, but pay attention to the fact, please, that we are born in nature, we need nature, and this means, among other things, that we need microbes in the way we handle our environment. And I thank you very much for your attention.